a bedtime story?
Yeah! Okay, gather round. This is my favorite book when I was young. It's called The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne.
Ooh.
The story takes place in the Puritan town of Massachusetts Bay Colony, a sort of religious utopia. However, the appearance is much different than reality. The men and women in the town are bearded, boring, dull, and all alike, except for the one Hester Prynne. The story begins with Hester, who is in jail for committing adultery. Hester is a figure of perfect elegance, ladylike, and characterized by a certain state and dignity. She stands out among the other women in the town, and many are jealous or skeptical of her. Hester's husband, Roger Chillingworth, has been away for 2 years, but Hester has a newborn baby named Pearl. Hester's daughter is also much different than others in Puritan society. She is passionate with a wild temper and is an outcast like her mom. Everyone knows that Hester has committed a sin, but they do not know who committed it with her. And despite everyone's begging Hester, they reveal who it is. Hester is forced to stand on a scaffold and wear a scarlet letter A on her chest at all times as public shame for her sin. Because of this, Hester and Pearl are outcasts in this society and live a lonely life. Hester remains in the colony because that is where she committed the sin, and she believes she has to be punished there as well. Also, the father of her baby is still in the town. The first time Hester is standing on the scaffold, Roger Chillingworth returned to the town. After seeing her on the scaffold, Chillingworth came to visit Hester in jail and decided he does not want anyone in town to know he was her husband, and tells her he is going to get revenge on the man she had an affair with. Hester agrees to this, and Chillingworth tells everyone in town he is a physician. Over time, Chillingworth notices Reverend Dimmesdale's increasingly strange behavior, including holding his hand over his heart and his quickly deteriorating health, and realizes he may be the father of Pearl. In order to get closer to Dimmesdale, Chillingworth becomes his personal physician, living with him and watching his every move. Chillingworth's personality takes a sudden change from calm and meditative to evil, crazed, and controlled by a desire to get revenge. As Dimmesdale's health continues to fail, his parishioners in town praise him even more, which makes his internal guilt worsen. He punishes himself by performing vigils and fasts to cleanse himself of his sin, but the only way he will ever be free from it is if he confesses and is true to himself. Over 7 years, Hester keeps Dimmesdale's secret. Throughout this time, she continues to be judged, shamed, and seen as a sinner, while Dimmesdale is praised and worshipped for being a saintly minister, even though they committed the same sin. One night, when Dimmesdale cannot handle his shame and guilt any longer, he goes to the scaffold, where Hester is repeatedly shamed. He goes there in the middle of the night when no one else is around to see him, but still part of him hopes that someone will find him there and his sin will be revealed. However, the only people who see him there are Hester and Pearl. They stand on the scaffold with him and all hold hands, uniting the three of them forever.
It was an obscure night of early May, an unvaried pall of cloud, same multitude which had stood as eyewitness while Hester Prynne sustained her punishment, could now have been summoned forth. They would have discerned her no face above the platform, nor hardly the outline of a human shape, in the dark gray of the midnight, but the town was all asleep.
It is done! The whole town will awake and hurry forth and find me here. Look, Mistress Hibbins is already staring in the window. Oh, now she's gone.
Dimmesdale could hardly restrain himself from speaking. A good evening to you, Venerable Father Wilson. Come up hither, I pray you, and pass a pleasant hour with me.
Pearl! Hester Prynne, are you there?
Yes, it is Hester Prynne. It is I, and my little Pearl.
Whence come you, Hester? What sent you hither?
I have been watching at a deathbed, at Governor Winthrop's deathbed, and have taken his measure for a robe, and am now going homeward to my dwelling.
Come up hither, Hester, thou and little Pearl. Ye have both been here before, but I was not with you. Come up hither once again, and we will stand all three together.
She silently ascended the steps and sit on the platform, holding little Pearl by the hand. The minister felt for the child's other hand and took it. The moment that he did so, there came what seemed a tumultuous rush of new life, other life than his own, pouring like a torrent into his heart and hurrying all through his veins, as if the mother and the child were communicating their vital warmth to his half-torpid system. The three formed an electric chain.
A moment longer, my child. But wilt thou promise to take my hand and my mother's hand tomorrow noontide?
Not then, Pearl, but another time. At the great judgment day, then and there, before the judgment seat, thy mother and thou and I must stand together, but the daylight of this world shall not see our meeting.
Dimmesdale was interrupted by a light that gleamed far and wide over all the muffled sky. It was doubtless caused by one of those meteoroids which the night watcher may so often observe burning out to waste. In the vacant regions of the atmosphere, so powerful was its radiance that it thoroughly illuminated the dense medium of cloud betwixt the sky and earth. The great vault brightened like the dome of an immense lamp. It was an accustomed light, and there stood the minister with his hand over his heart, and Hester Prynne with the embroidered letter glimmering on her bosom, and little Pearl herself, a symbol, and then connecting link between these two, they stood in the noon of that strange and solemn splendor, as if it were the light that is to reveal all secrets, and the daybreak that shall unite all who belong to one another. Worthy Sir, pious Master Dimmesdale, can this be you? Well, well, indeed. We men of study, whose heads are in our books, have need to be straightly looked after. We dream in our waking moments, and walk in our sleep. Come, good sir, and my dear friend, I pray you, let me lead you home.
How knowest thou that I was here?
In good faith, I knew nothing of the matter. I had spent the better part of the night in the bedside of the worshipful Governor Winthrop, doing what my poor skill might to give him ease. He was going home to a better world. I, likewise, was on my homeward, when this strange light shone out. Come with me, I beseech you, reverend sir, else you will be poorly able to do Sabbath duty tomorrow. Aha! See now how they trouble the brain, these books. You should study less, good sir, and take a little pastime, or these night whimsy will grow upon you.
I will go home with you.
Dimmesdale preached a discourse, which was held to be the richest and most powerful, and the most replete with heavenly influences that had ever proceeded from his lips. Dimmesdale finished preaching as he came down the pulpit steps. The gray-bearded sexton met him, holding up a black glove which the minister recognized as his own.
It was found this morning on the scaffold, where evildoers are set up to public shame. Satan dropped it there, I take it, intending a scurrilous jest against your reverence. But indeed he was blind and foolish, as he ever and always is. A pure hand needs no glove to cover it.
Thank you, my good friend. Yes, it seems to be my glove indeed.
And since Satan saw fit to steal it, your reverence must needs handle him without gloves henceforth. But did your reverence hear of the portent that was seen last night? A great red letter in the sky, the letter A, which we interpret to stand for an angel. For as our Governor Winthrop was made an angel this past night, it was doubtless held fit that there should be some notice thereof.
No, I have not heard of it.
Did you guys not understand that? Do any of you have questions?
Why did Dimmesdale go to the scaffold?
Dimmesdale went to the scaffold because his guilt about keeping his secret of being Pearl's father led him there. He wanted people to find out so that his shame would be relieved, but he was afraid of what the consequences might be. That's why he went to the scaffold at night, so that there was only a small chance that someone would see him. Because no one else knew his secret, he was not being true to himself, and this eternal guilt consumed him, causing him to punish himself and his health to fail. He wanted to be true, but did not have all the strength yet.
Why was there a red A in the sky?
Well, what do you think?
I think that there is a red A in the sky because it shows how they are all a part of the sin. Pearl is the living symbol of the Scarlet Letter. Hester wears the Scarlet Letter, and Dimmesdale was responsible for the sinful act itself that resulted in Hester's public punishment.
That's right. The A appearing in the sky was also a sign from God. Do you think he was showing approval or warning?
Approval.
Why?
Because they were finally united and admitting their sin, unlike this first scaffold scene, where Hester and Pearl are alone on the scaffold and were the only ones being true.
I disagree. I think it was a warning.
Why?
Because Dimmesdale was not being true to everyone. No one was around to see his confession as opposed to when Hester stood on the scaffold. He did not suffer the same way as Hester did on the scaffold when everyone in town was staring at her.
Those are very good points. Do you have any more questions?
Since the red A was up in the sky, didn't everyone see it?
Yes, but since the governor died that night, people believed that it was a blessing from God and meant angel. This was very ironic because the townspeople thought the A represented holiness and was sacred, but in reality, the A represented Hester and Dimmesdale's sin of adultery, but only they were aware of that.
Oh, now I understand. But I was also wondering what happened when they all held hands.
When Hester and Pearl held Dimmesdale's hands, they formed an electric chain that united them forever and gave a new life and strength to Dimmesdale. After suffering and punishing himself for so long, this gave him a new energy and state of mind that took away from his weak and sick body. Pearl standing in between Dimmesdale and Hester symbolizes her as the link between them, and also as a living symbol of their sin, shame, and love. The new life and strength that was given to him in this moment led him to ultimately be able to confess his sin to the town after the election terminated.
But why won't Dimmesdale stand with them at the scaffold the next day?
Dimmesdale's not ready to confess his sin to all of the town yet. He struggles with this because everyone in the town sees him as a role model who does not sin, but that is not who he truly is. His appearance differs from reality because outside he is seen as a saintly minister, but inside he is a sinner.
That was so scary when Chillingworth saw them at the scaffold. I pictured him having a very dark and evil appearance. Why was Chillingworth so upset when he saw Dimmesdale on the scaffold?
He did not want anyone to see Dimmesdale on the scaffold, because then everyone would discover Dimmesdale's secret, which would end Dimmesdale's torture because he would be free from his internal guilt. Chillingworth took pleasure in making Dimmesdale's life miserable and did not want to end his punishment because that was his form of revenge.
That's right. Chillingworth committed his life to punishing Dimmesdale because he was the one who caused Hester to sin. Roger blames the sin solely on Dimmesdale and seek revenge. It is getting late now. If you have any more questions, we will talk about it tomorrow.
Aww.